Good afternoon, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar, Promoting Your Professional Development with Acmpe, brought to you by Edward Gulko, Acmpe Forum Representative for New Jersey MGMA. Please be aware that there will be a question and answer portion today at the end of the webinar. To avoid frequent interruptions during the webinar, please type your questions in the question box located on the right of your screen. They will be answered in the order received during the question and answer portion. Additionally, an electronic version of this presentation will be emailed to all participants following completion of today's webinar, and a recorded version will be available on the website for members only. Again, NJMGMA would like to thank you for attending today's webinar, and I will now turn things over to Ed.
Thank you, Dawn. First of all, I hope everybody had a nice Thanksgiving, and happy you could all join us this afternoon. The topic of today is promoting your professional development with Acmpe, and as part of it, our objectives today is to discuss the value of both certification and fellowship, to explain the steps that you need to take to become a CMPE, and also then to learn the steps to take beyond that to become a fellow. Now, right now in the field, strategic practice management has become even more and more important in all of our careers. Over the past 30 years or so, the physicians that we work for have become more and more attuned to the need for board certification. Those of you who work in primary care, very seldom will your physicians refer a patient to a specialist who's not also board certified. Now, if we're going to hold our physicians and other physicians to the need for board certification, we should hold ourselves to that same standard. And that allows our physicians to identify us as board certified as meeting certain critical criteria as being experts and professionals in our field. The certification process is based primarily on the body of knowledge as developed by MGMA and Acmpe. And those are the key points that are needed for us to be efficient and effective in our role as practice administrators, well, whether in a 2 or 3 doctor office or a 150 doctor multi-specialty practice. The basic rules, the basic needs, the basic concepts are all the same. Actually, if we look at it for medical practices, this is our certification. And the same for those of you who work with hospitals. You'll see many hospital administrators will have the FACHE after their name, which is the hospital equivalent, the American College of Healthcare Executives, which is a hospital equivalent. And because they are so attuned with the ACHE, they recognize most recognize the value and the reason for the Acmpe and the certification that we offer. I mean, as you all know, the idea of a medical practice being a simple job and can be done by the front desk person really doesn't apply anymore. Today's medical groups require that our administrators be well-educated, experienced, involved in, we have to be generalists and specialists in almost everything. Many of our group practices interact with hospitals and multi-specialty health systems, and we need to be able to work through all the variable portions of that, including joint ventures, acquisitions, management contracts, and people, and we are reaching a point where there's greater understanding of the differences that exist between hospital management and medical practice management. Many years ago, when hospitals were buying up medical practices, they just took the practices and assigned them to a junior assistant administrator to run. In most cases, they failed miserably because those people did not have the experience or knowledge to run a medical practice. Same as many practice administrators would not necessarily feel comfortable going in and becoming a CEO or a COO of a hospital. Our practices are growing in size. Our IT needs are greater. Practices which years ago might have been a $1 or $2 or $300,000 year operation are now in the multi-million dollars. which comes with it additional requirements, additional staff, all of which we need to have the knowledge, and all of which we also need to have the ability to show or be able to confirm to the outside world and to our physicians that we are certified, that we have the knowledge needed to run their practices. So the question is, why pursue board certification? Well, the Acmpe has granted certification and fellowship to over 3,000 medical practice executives since 1956. The growth, the value of that certification has grown year after year. According to MGMA surveys, practices managed by a certified practice executive are usually significantly more profitable than the nation's average. You could say that it's better practices. I prefer to say that it's better management. And it's managers who are qualified and show what they're capable of doing. You stand out in your profession. There are only approximately 600 fellows in the country. There are several thousand CMPEs and several thousand nominees. But putting those initials after your name make your resume, make your standing in the field really stand out. You gain a competitive advantage. If you're going, very honestly, if you're going for a job and there are 3 of you applying for the job and your backgrounds are basically the same, but one of you has the CMPE or the FACMP and the other 2 don't, the odds are the person with the CMP is going to be looked at first. It's not a guarantee you're going to get it, but you're going to have that one-step advantage over your peers. And as I said, when you do it, we've seen that the practice performance has improved by those people who are board certified. ACMPE, the American College of Medical Practice Executives, was established in 1956. The ACMPE, the merger of ACMP and MGMA took place about 6 years ago. And now ACMP basically does all the credentialing for MGMA in the fellowship programs. And through that process, it also defines and updates the body of knowledge for the profession and assesses everybody through the various certification and fellowship programs. Pretty much an all-encompassing job. Now, I assume most of you are already in the field. You're already interested in certification, otherwise you wouldn't be on this call. Now, the certification exams are designed to evaluate your knowledge, skills, and competencies that in most cases you've already acquired. Some nominees actually attain certification in less than a year, others within 2 or 3 years. I've even known individuals to attain fellowship in 1 to 2 years, although that takes an awful lot of time and an awful lot of work. But part of the idea is the ACMP provides the resources, support, camaraderie, fellowship along the way, and our goal, the goal of the college, is for you to become certified. It serves the college no good to have people who are not certified. The goal is to have you become certified and have you learn and grow. Now, the body of knowledge for medical practice management, there's a foundation for certification and inventory. The whole purpose is to meet the certification industry standards. Certification programs must research and identify a body of knowledge to ensure valid and reliable exam content. The purpose of our role development is to outline the core competencies, knowledge, and skills required in a profession. Now, one thing we do, the exams every year are checked by an outside company, consulting firm, that checks it to make sure that our exams and results are appropriate and appropriate for a certification program. We want to make sure if we're going to be certifying, we're doing the job right. because that adds to the value of the certification for each of you. Now, there are 4 general competencies that are woven through all 6 domains, and there are 6 specific knowledge domains within the body of knowledge. I'm sure if you've looked online, you've seen them. The knowledge domains are specifically operations management, financial management, human resources, governance, patient-centered care, risk and compliance management. If you go on the website or if you look at the various brochures, you're going to see a list of tasks and drill downs into those knowledge and skills. But think about your everyday job and think about how many of those domains or how many of those areas do you impact in every single day of your work. The general competencies, what we looked at funnels through all of them is, of course, professionalism, which involves maintaining your ethical standards, leadership, where you're supporting, leading, and guiding your organization's strategic direction, whether you're at the number 1 position or a lower position, you're helping to guide that organization. That's what you want to do. Your communication skills, how you communicate with others, how you interact, whether verbally, in written form, how you connect both with your peers, your subordinates, and your supervisors. In critical thinking is how do you solve problems? How do you make decisions? Are you thinking about the whole picture? Are you looking at the whole picture? Now, these competencies thread through everything that Acmpe does, and they're also, and your certification is built on these competencies. When you look at your exams, whether it be essay or objective, you're going to see a basic thread going through all the questions that will test not only your basic knowledge of the core areas, but of these general competencies. Okay, now you want to become a member of the college. First step is nominee. Second step is certified medical practice executive, or the CMPE. And the last step is, the final step, the pinnacle, is getting your fellowship, or putting the FACMPE after your name. When you enter the certification program, you are automatically a nominee. That's where you start from. Now, to be qualified for a nominee, you have to have a current national MGMA membership, and you have to have at least 2 years of healthcare experience, including 6 months of supervisory experience. Now, there's one change that's not on the slides. It was announced at the national meeting in October in San Francisco, and that is that as of January 1st of 2019, you are required to become certified to have a bachelor's degree or at least 120 credit hours if you do not have your degree yet. Now, what does that mean? That means between now and then, if you do not have a degree, you have till December 29th to become certified. Once you're certified, you're grandfathered. You're grandfathered on the old rules. No one can take that away from you. And you can still go on for fellowship at that point. But if you're not certified, if you have not passed the exams by December 31st of 2018, you will have to start all over again, and you can only do that if you have a bachelor's degree. Associate degree doesn't work. It must be a bachelor's degree. You meet the requirements. Right now it's just the 2 years as a member of National. You can apply today. Now, once you apply, you're going to take an exam. The first part of the exam is a multiple choice exam. And you're going to get 175 questions. You're going to get 3 hours and 15 minutes to take it. And right now, a passing score is 500 on a scale of 200 to 800. So in other words, it's not on not on a curve. If everybody gets at least 500, everybody passes. If nobody gets it, nobody passes. This is not a curved grade. And this is one example of what that exam question might look like. And they're asking here, which of the following is an example of a variable cost? I'll give you a moment to think about it. And if you want the right answer in this case is medical supplies. That's a variable cost. There are assessment tests on the MGMA website that you can take for free to give you a general assessment of each body of knowledge. If you have not taken it already, I suggest you take those assessment tests, those samples. The second part of the exam is an essay exam. Now, right now, it consists of 3 essay questions, and you're going to be asked, you're given a critical incident or critical situation. You're going to be asked to assess it and describe a course of action. And those tests are going to be reviewed by 3 CMPEs or fellows. Each question gets reviewed by 3 CMPEs or fellows, and you have to have a composite score of a B or better to pass each one of those essays. Now, this essay exam is only good until September. The plan is, again, having been announced in national, that come September they're doing away with the essay and they're changing the essay exam to basically a quest. It's changed to a scenario-based questions where you're going to be given a more involved scenario, and then you're going to be given 4 or 5 questions that are specifically based on that scenario, and you have to pick the right answers. But if you don't read the scenario and don't understand them, you will never be able to answer the right question. So right now it's a 3-question essay through September of 2017. Then that's planned right now is in September of 17, it's going to change to a scenario-based questionnaire. But until then, here's one example of an essay question. Now, keep in mind that when you do the essay questions, you will not have access to spell check. You will not have access to grammar check. Yes, you will be typing because you will be at a computer, but you will have access to none of the little tools and things we all use in our practices whenever we write a memo or a report. Those will not be available to you. Again, you will see examples, and there are other examples of that on the system. And by the way, when your essay exams are graded, the graders have no idea who you are. They know you by a number. And three examiners are going to grade each one of your questions. So we have 3 people whose total scores will be added together to create what your score is. Certification exams right now are being offered 4 times a year, and when they're offered at testing centers, I think there's some 500 plus centers across the country, and results are usually reported out within 8 weeks or about 8 weeks from close, and you'll get the results. As I said, you can pass one part and not pass the other and have to redo it. If you pass the objective this year, but you don't pass the essay, and you don't take the essay again until after September of next year, you're going to get a different type of an essay test. You're going to get the scenario-based test. The other thing you need is 50 hours of continuing education. You need that to become a CMPE, and then you need it every 3 years to maintain it. And eligible activities, conferences, seminars, school work, you publish an article, distance learning, audio conferences that meet the requirements of the college. Now, your education does not have to be just from MGMA. It can be from other things. You could be involved where your local hospital is doing a 1-hour course on whatever, let's say OSHA update or employment updates, and they invite all the managers of all the local practices. You can submit for that. If you're in the state of New Jersey and you go to the PMC every year, that's usually good for somewhere between 12 and 14 hours alone. So 3 years of that will give you 36 to 42 hours of the 50 that you need. If you attend national, you're golden, you have it. But you can also take any of these other courses, any other ways of doing it. You can also do it by being a speaker at whether your state meeting or at a national meeting. You can use that also for those credit hours. But you need 50 to start to get your CMPE. I've seen people pass the exams, but until they get their 50 hours in a 3-year time period, they did not get their CMPE. So if you think about it, I suggest you join and you start keeping track of things through the online transcript that's available to you. So to get your boarding, again, you need to do 3 things. Right now, pass the multiple choice, pass the essay, or after September of next year, pass the scenario-based questions, and earn your 50 hours. Get all 3 of those, you become a CMPE. And if you're in the state of New Jersey, what I do as a forum rep is I will then send a congratulatory letter to every new CMPE that we have in the state. Once you do that, the national board confers the credential on you. They kind of say, yes, you become board certified. You can use the CMPE after your name. And then to maintain it or to keep it, you must continue your membership in MGMA, and every 3 years you must submit your 50 hours of continuing education if you want to keep your certification. Once you get your certification, then you have the option. It is not a requirement. Many people don't do it, but you have the option to go for or to earn your fellowship in the college. And when you do that, you can put the FACMP after your name. And then for the medical practice side of things, that is the highest level of distinction. That gives you what you need. You get more respect. It is considered that you get more professional respect and recognition. Remember, if you're sitting at a meeting with hospital administrators and they all have FACHE after their name, you now have the FACMP after your name. It puts you more on an equal par with them. You have more opportunities to be involved in things, to mentor, leadership. Some states allow CMPEs to be the forum rep. Other states require that it only be fellows that are forum rep. You have opportunities to get involved in other committees at national levels. And sometimes you're actually called and asked for opinions by newspapers and other things, mainly because you have that FACMP. Now again, to get FACMP, you need to be a CMPE. And between now and, again, January 1st of 2019, you do not need a degree. If you've got your CMP before that, even without a degree, you can get your FACMPE. That will be grandfathered and allowed. Once you obtain your CMPE, in order to go for fellowship, you must submit a $250 application fee. You're going to write a professional paper. Some people call it like a term paper or a master's thesis. And again, you must continue and always continue to meet your 50 hours every 3 years of professional continuing education. Frankly, no different than your doctors have to meet to maintain their boards and their licensure. Now, to get your paper approved, there are 2 steps to it. First, you have to submit an outline. Then you have to submit your manuscript. Both your outline and your manuscripts are reviewed and approved and graded by a team of fellows on the ACMP Professional Papers Committee. As a former curate, I can tell you that the committee takes their responsibilities extremely serious. They will first review your outline. I don't recommend people starting too much on the manuscript phase until the outline is approved. The committee will review the outline. They may make recommendations for changes or for clarification on your outline. If you are looking to cross the stage at a specific annual meeting, normally the outlines are due no later than April or May of that year. So if you're looking to become a fellow, for example, by October of 2018 at the meeting in Anaheim, you're going to want to make sure your outline is in and submitted sometime in March or April. I don't recommend waiting till the last deadline, because that's when there's a real crush, and it'll take longer to get an answer back for you from the committee. Once your outline is approved, then you go to your paper. You write your paper, you submit that. Usually papers are due on or about sometime in August to allow the committee enough time to review your paper before the convocation at the annual meeting. In addition, quite often, individuals are sent their paper back asking for clarification or for more information or to fix something. I strongly recommend that before you submit your paper, you ask, it has to be your work, but there's nothing to stop you from asking another fellow in your state who has already done the paper to review your paper and read it and give you any comments on it. I know I did that when I did my paper. Once your paper is approved, the MGMA board will approve you for the FACMP designation. You can start immediately as soon as you get that, putting FACMP after your name. At the end, you'll also get by mail a certificate and plaque designating that. And at the convention or conference of that year, you'll be recognized at the Fellows Convocation and at the Fellows Dinner. There are to go through this process, there are a variety of resources that are available to you. Those resources include the actual body of knowledge, the forum rep that exists in your state. Every state has a forum rep. In a couple cases, 2 or 3 states may share a single forum rep. If your state doesn't have a forum rep, you can call national, speak to one of the staff in the ACMP section, and they'll be more than happy to connect you with another forum rep or someone who is in the mentoring program. There are certification exam workbooks. There are other tools, including, as I said, there's an online quick assessment program that will give you anywhere from 3 to 10 questions on each body of knowledge. You can do them real quick and see how much you know versus how much you think you know. In many of the state meetings, there might be a breakout session on the college available to you. There are discussion groups at national. There is also, for certification, there are some online classes, basically study groups. They're run by 2 or 3 of the states that they've opened it up. Rather than every state having a study group, 2 or 3 states have set up study groups that they have made available to everyone to access, so that, especially if you're not sure about certain areas, maybe you're working in a hospital setting where you don't have as much involvement in certain areas of the board of the body of knowledge, that's a good way to get up to speed and learn what you need to know. There's all kinds of resources available to you. Best way to get started is to just do it. If you're a member of National already, It's easy to become certified. It's easy to start the process. If you're not a member of National, the only way to do it is to join National, and I suggest you do it. Once you start on this path, I think you'll find a lot of enjoyment in it. I think it'll work well for you, and I think your doctors are very impressed by it. I know several practices where when the administrators got their fellowship, the doctors threw them a party, they gave them various gifts. I'm not saying your doctors will do it, but I think most doctors recognize board certification as being really the gold standard of where we all need to be as practice administrators. You can email ACMPE for information. There's a toll-free number. Everybody's available to help you. We want more members. We want more members to pass the exam. We want more members to become fellows. Some states even have special programs, if you're also a member of the state, whereby they recognize new CMPs and new fellows with certain positive things. I don't want to say what it is because different states have different things. Basically, that's the college from start to finish. It's a great way to get involved. It's a great way to meet people. And it's a great way to actually very much enlarge your network of administrators and the movers and shakers in our field. Dawn?
Thanks so much, Ed. I'm going to get to the questions now, folks. So if you could please type your questions in the question box, we'll get to them in the order received. I do have a couple to start out with, so I'll read the first one off. Do my AAPC hours count towards the 50 hours?
Yes. In most cases, yes.
Okay. Would coding conferences count towards the 50 hours of education?
I have seen it counted. What you'd have to do is just put it on the transcript and they would tell you if it didn't. I believe, though, I've seen people use them and I've seen it go through the system and be accepted.
Okay, great. So far, they're the only two questions we have. So, folks, I'll give it a few more seconds for questions to come in, and if not, we'll close the webinar out. So please get them into me quickly.
One comment for everybody. There are other organizations out there that say they do medical practice management certification. This is the gold standard. This is the one that is recognized. This is also the one that's recognized where we work together, where MGMA works together with ACHE, HFMA, the Hospital Association, the American Medical Association. This is the gold standard for practice management.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Ed. It doesn't appear that we have any more questions at this time. Folks, please remember the presentation will be coming out to you electronically, and the recorded version will be behind our firewall for members only, probably later today, if not tomorrow morning at the latest. I want to thank you all for attending, and I'll now close the webinar. Thank you.